Hi class, today we're going to talk about how to get the quadratic formula by using complete the square. So we already know what the quadratic formula is. It is if x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, but it only works if we have a squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we're going to apply all the steps to completing the square to our standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c today, and we're going to end up with the quadratic formula. So if I were to try to solve for x by completing the square, the first thing I would do is isolate my variable terms by subtracting c on both sides so that we have something like this. Once we have our variable terms isolated, we have to figure out what the a value is. The a value in this case is just a, and we're going to divide every term by a. We're going to end up with x squared plus b over ax is equal to negative c over a. After we've divided all our terms by our a value, we want to complete our square. That means we need to figure out what value we're going to add to both sides. And that's where we use our little equation c equals b over 2 squared. But it's a little bit weird here because this time our b value isn't just b. Our b value is actually b over a. So what this ends up being is, let's rewrite it another way. B over 2 is the same as b divided by 2. And again, this time our b value is actually b over a if we look at the value in front of x here. So simplifying this a bit further, what we have inside our square is b over a times, when I divide by 2, it's the same as multiplying by 1/2. So what we're going to add to both sides actually is b over 2a squared to complete our square. Simplifying this a little bit further is going to give us negative c over a plus, and then if we square this, we'll have b squared. 2a squared is 4a squared. On the left side, we can rewrite it as a perfect square now that we've completed the square. As a perfect square, it's going to be x plus, and if you guys have noticed the pattern whenever you write your factored form, it is always x plus or minus what value you have in here. So this is x plus b over 2a quantity squared. We're getting a little closer, but let's simplify the right side a bit more. Let's keep the left the same. But on the right side, I can combine this a bit further because they are both fractions. And in order for fractions to be added or subtracted together, we need a common denominator. This is 4a squared, but this is a. But if I multiply the top and bottom by 4a, the bottom will become 4a squared. So that's going to give us a negative 4ac on the top and 4a squared on the bottom. Now that we have a common denominator, we can combine the top. We can rewrite the top as b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. So this is starting to look a lot like that quadratic formula that we know. So after we've rewritten our perfect square as a quantity squared, usually the next step that we take is we square root both sides. So let's do that. If I square root both sides, what I have is x plus b over 2a on the left. And on the right side, well, I can't really square root the top in the form that it is in right now, but I can square root the bottom. So the top is going to be rewritten as plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. But the bottom, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of a squared is a. So we have 2a down below. We're almost there, guys. We have one step left to get x alone, The next thing we're going to do is subtract b over 2a on both sides. And that's going to leave us with x equals negative b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So what we have is looking super close to that quadratic formula we're trying to get at. The only thing left that we need to do is recognize that we already have common denominators of 2a, so all we need to do is combine the top. So we have negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and we have the quadratic formula, and this should match what we had when we started right over here. And that is how we derive the quadratic formula from using complete the square. Thank you for watching.